Pokémon Infinite Fusion is an amazing game that lets you fuse any two Pokémon together, some that are awesome, goofy, and even straight up creepy. Oddly enough, that also describes bugs pretty well. And with that, I'm gonna attempt to beat this game using what you voted for, Bug Type Pokémon, which most people consider to be the weakest type of Pokémon, but I for one think that they are extremely underrated and can be very strong if used correctly. Unlike my last two challenges, there are a plethora of bug encounters available in this game, and since we're playing on Modern Mode, a bunch of them are available even before the first gym. We choose Squirtle as our starter and begin assembling our horde of bugs. Right away, we catch a Spinarak, Leddyba, Paris, Larvesta, Nincada, Joltik, Caterpie, and Weedle. Another perk of bug types is their early evolution, so of course we quickly evolve both our Weedle into a Beedrill and Caterpie into a Butterfree. And now we get to make our first two fusions. First up is Squirtle and Butterfree that fuse into Butterdle, and Beedrill and Fletchling fuse into the cute yet threatening Beeling. As always, the first rival battle is a cakewalk, so on this run, to make things more difficult and entertaining, I will once again be sticking to a level cap as best as I can. I'll only use custom fusions, no healing items will be allowed in battle, and battle mode will always be on set. Before we take on the first gym, we get one more bug, a gift Pineco from this guy in the hotel. And now we get a handful of new fusions. First off is Pineco and Duskull, and Duco looks great, just like every Duskull fusion. Shinx and Larvesta fuse into Larynx and looks incredible. Then Bonsly and Paris fuse into Paisley, and finally, Joltik and Zorua fuse into Jolrua. Our first gym is against Brock. This time around, I tried to randomize the gym leaders, so Brock is an Ice-type trainer. Somewhat ironic considering Ice was our last run. Anyway, he leads off with Suicune and we send in Larynx. We get frozen on the first turn, but immediately thaw, and then take it out with two embers. Delino is next, and let's take a second to look at that sprite and think. So creepy. The creep takes out Larynx, and little Paisley comes in and saves the day, defeating Brock and earning our first gym badge. Larynx evolves into Larxio, we fuse Nincada with Paris into Pokeda, and then Butterdle evolves into Butterturtle. Invader Zim, anyone? After making it through Mount Moon and disturbing Team Rocket's plans, we catch some more bugs. A Yanma and a beastly Heracross. So we fuse Yanma with Charmeleon, and Yanmeleon looks incredible. Then we fuse Heracross and Hitmonchan, but we end up using the reverse fusion. Beeling evolves into Beander, and our rival challenges us to a battle. He leads with Cottonix. Herachan does get leech seeded, but can take it out with two Mach Punches. Solavee's out next, and Herachan can do good damage, but between Leech Seed and Psywave, he falls. Beander comes in and easily takes it out though, as well as the Niniard and the Feebas, defeating our rival. And now it's time to take on Misty. Sadly, randomizing the gym leaders kept making the game crash, so they're back to normal Modern Mode teams, and Misty is an Ice-type trainer just like Brock. Awkward. But with that being the case, Herachan just one-shots both of her Pokemon, so thanks for the easy badge, Misty. But with the new level cap, we can evolve some of our bugs. Nincada into Ninjask, which also gives us a Shedinja, which I am allowed to use, but I am banning the Wonder Guard ability. Then we evolve Paris into Parasect, Spinarak into Ariados, and Leddyba into Ledian. And time to make some new fusions. First is Gyarados and Parasect, which fuses into one of the coolest fusions I've ever seen. Then Ghastly and Butterfree fuse into Butterly, and this Ninjask and Arbok fusion looks absolutely incredible. While we're on the SSN, we can get our next bug, kinda, a Claw Fossil, as well as battle our rival again. And I normally don't show this battle, but I want to give our new fusion some time to shine. Ninbok gets leech seeded, but destroys Cottonixio with Ice Fangs. But it can't do much to Ninyard, so we send in Yanmeleon, who similarly destroys it. I regularly underestimate Solavie, and it takes down Yanmeleon. But Pardos easily handles it with a Fury Cutter, as well as the Slugbass, defeating our rival. We're gonna make some new fusions before taking on the fighting type Lieutenant Surge. First is Ariados and Mr. Mime, which is honestly not nearly as creepy as I was expecting, and then this adorable Pineco and Solosis fusion, Solico. Butterly evolves and is no longer a custom sprite, so we refuse Butterfree with Espeon into Butterpeon. And now it's time to take on Lieutenant Surge. Butterpeon is easily able to take down the Nose Key, and Houndblade is terrifying, so we put it to sleep and fish for Silverwind Omnibus. But no luck, so Butterpeon falls. But Ariados is able to knock out Houndblade with a Draining Kiss and Fletch Chop with Psybeams, defeating Surge and earning our third gym badge. And this is where the power of early game bug evolutions is going to start to fade out. Now we can revive our fossil and add a new team member, Anorith, and make some new fusions. First is the physical monster of a Heracross Gyarados fusion. This amazing Ninjask Lucario fusion, Ninario with speed boost. Beedrill and Gabite fuse into B-Bite, and finally we get this incredible Parasect Electabuzz fusion. On our way to Lavender Town, we catch a Shuckle in Dark Cave. Our rival challenges us to another battle, but his team really hasn't changed, so we'll just move on. Now that we're in Celadon City, we can get two incredible new bugs, Scyther and Pinsir. So with our new additions, we can make some more new fusions. First is Scyther and Mimikyu, and I really don't know how to feel about this one. And then we fuse Pinsir with Electabuzz to create Electasir. Then we fuse two of our bugs together, Parasect and Shuckle, into Paracle. And then Butterfree and Ninetales fuse into Buttertails, which definitely sounds like an American kids show. Down in Celadon Sewers, we confront Giovanni and challenge him to a battle. He has a very strong team led off with a Haunchsing. Paracle puts it to sleep and lowers its special attack a few times with Struggle Bug. Sadly, we do get poisoned, so after putting it back to sleep, we send in Ninario to set up two Swords Dances. Bug Bite doesn't quite get the KO, so we set up another Swords Dance along with our speed boost. We were expecting the heal, but it just pain splits and activates our berry, and then it heals, but now a Bug Bite is enough to one-shot. Pecrior comes in and you'd think, oh, just Brick Break for quad effective damage. Well, it has Shadow Sneak and Protean, so if it goes for that, our attack does nothing. So we switch to Paracle and it Thunder Punches instead. So we send in Mimithur and go for a Brick Break. Thankfully it Sucker Punches and changes to a Dark type first. But with our disguise broken, another Sucker Punch kills. So we send in Electasir, take a Shadow Sneak and paralyze it. Wild Charge does big damage and an X-Scissor takes it out. Smeargar comes in and does outspeed, so it takes out Electasir. But this isn't actually Smeargar, it's Zoshin. So we send in Gyarados and one-shot with a Brick Break. The real Smeargar comes in and we land a Night Slash into the red. One more will do the trick and it Destiny Bonds. Rude. Good thing this isn't a Nuzlocke, but Giovanni is defeated. Now, before taking on our Bug-type competition, we make one new fusion. Beedrill and Dodrio fuse into Beedrio, and it's time to challenge the 4th gym leader, Erica. Type-Through is really scary, but we have Paracle. After putting it to sleep, all it takes is 2 rollouts and it goes down. Sadly, the Buttergeist puts us to sleep and ends the rollout streak, and then it crits with a Magical Leaf. Paracle wakes up and lands a Spore, so we start rolling out again, and it does wake up, but this time it just Shadow Balls and then goes down. Galvancon does outspeed and takes out Paracle. Buttertail comes in and hits hard with a Flamethrower, but falls to 2 Dizzy Punches. Our last hope is Beedrio. It takes about half from a Dizzy Punch and then lands a Poison Jab. Erica heals and I realize it's bug normal, so we hit a Pluck doing about half, and thankfully it just Bug Bites, so one more Pluck finishes it off and defeats Erica, earning our 4th gym badge. And now with a new level cap and some new items being available, we get a bunch of new evolutions. First is Fortress, then Galvantula, Armaldo, Yanmega, and Scizor. So it's time to overhaul our team. First, we fuse Pinsir and Blastoise into one of the coolest fusions of the run by far, Blastsir. Then Armaldo and Bastiodon into Bastilda, don't. Then Galvantula and Jolteon fuse into Joltula. I love both Yanmega and Charizard, and this fusion does not disappoint. Shuckle and Venusaur fuse into this absolutely adorable Shusaur, and Heracross and Slacking fuse into the beastly Heraking. We make it to Fuchsia City, where we can find a Venonat and evolve it into a Venomoth, and a Volcarona that we immediately fuse with Lucario. Since Koga is a dark gym now, we fuse Butterfree with Whimsicott into Buttercott, as well as Shuckle and Breloom into Shaloom. Speaking of Koga, it's time for our gym battle. We lead with Volcario and Bugbuzz one-shots the Reork in disguise. Weeflame is next, and since we're quad weak to fire, we switch to Shaloom, which takes a flame charge. Shaloom sets up a Leech Seed and gets destroyed by an Acrobatics. Heraking comes in and hits hard with a Chip Away. We expected the heal here, so we set up a Yawn, but 2 Chip Aways would have done the trick. Honchboar is next, so we yawn again and then nail a Megahorn before getting swaggered. We risk it and finish it off with a Chip Away. Heraking then snaps out of confusion and demolishes Umterra with a +2 Megahorn, earning our 5th badge. Before we head into Silph Tower, we refuse some of our team members. First, we fuse Scizor and Blaziken into this awesome Blazor, but we end up using Scizor and Weavile instead of Weezor. Armaldo and Infernape fuse into Inferaldo, and in Silph Tower, our rival challenges us to a battle. Whimsray Volt switches into Fragon, which takes our Bug Bite and nails us with a Rock Slide, taking out Inferaldo in one shot. Weezor easily handles it with an Ice Punch, as well as Lampsol with a Night Slash. Magtick comes in and there really isn't much Weezor can do, so we switch into Joltula. We get hit with a Toxic as well as a Surf, but 2 Thunderbolts take it down. Signal Beam does about half on Ryupion before Joltula falls to a Psychic. Volcario comes in, and since Ryupion only has special attacks, we're able to set up 6 Quiver Dances while it barely touches us with Hyper Voice. Now a +6 Bug Buzz of course one-shots Ryupion, and Whimsray with a Fiery Dance, and of course the Ninyard. So now that we've defeated our rival, he decides to help us battle Giovanni. And now we get to show off how much of a beast Blastoise is. Our rival was even nice enough to set up a Tailwind while we Swords Dance. A Volt Switch plus Aqua Tail takes down Primarino, and we go for Storm Throw on Ryras, but he switches into Sand Queen, which then goes down easily to an Aqua Tail. Storm Throw can't quite finish Ryras, and Ryuion falls. Another Storm Throw plus a Lava Plume brings down Ryras, and an Aqua Tail defeats Genkan and Giovanni. Before taking on Sabrina, we make some more fusions. First is 2 of my all-time favorite Pokemon, Volcarona and Tentacruel, fuse into Volcacruel. Shuckle and Steelix fuse into this kinda hilarious Shulex, an Ariados and Mimikyu fusion that looks great but never actually sees battle. And finally we fuse 2 fossils, Armaldo and Omastar, into Omaldo, and it's time to challenge the now Fairy-type gym leader Sabrina. Sylveon can be really scary, but Blastoise is scarier, and just smacks it with an Aqua Tail. Mimikyu hits really hard with Play Rough, but Blastoise is able to use up all of Sabrina's potions before falling to another. Omaldo barely survives a Play Rough as well, but a Surf takes out the Mimikyu. Driftrill comes out, so we protect for Lefty's recovery and set up a Toxic. Then we send in Volcacruel and set up Quiver Dances while Toxic slowly takes out Driftrill. Cleflix shockingly survives a boosted Flamethrower, but one more brings it down and earns our 6th gym badge. And now for some more fusions. First we fuse Volcarona and Gengar into this menacing Volcagar, then Heracross and Flygon fuse into the Bug Dragon Haragon. In one of my favorite fusions of the run, Pinsir and Aegislash fuse into the Bug Steel Aegislash, and this looks absolutely amazing. Then Armaldo and Togekiss fuse into Togeldo, as well as the Shuckle Metagross fusion Shugros. And it's time to take on Blaine. Haragon is able to take out the Klinkfrig with a few Earthquakes, then crunches the Zano, but it switches into Togeniclus. Megahorn shockingly doesn't kill, and Haragon falls to a Psyshock. I try to Quiver Dance with Volcagar, but Pain Split and Psyshock make it very scary very fast. So we just take it out with a Bug Buzz, and then Zano with a Shadow Ball. And finally, Allosaur with a quad effective Bug Buzz. Blaine is once again a pushover, and we earn our 7th badge. Giovanni's master plan was to fuse 3 legendary birds into Zapmokuno, and we obviously won't stand for that, so we challenge him to a battle. Battling essentially 3 legendary birds simultaneously with a team full of bugs is not a great idea, but we got this. Haragon Dragon Claws Moltres and gets instantly drilled and taken out. Togeldo comes in and is able to fire off 2 ancient powers and take down the Moltres, but falls to an Ice Beam. Volcagar Thunderbolts, but also gets destroyed by a Drill Peck. Weezor Ice Punches Zapdos twice and falls to an Ice Beam. In comes the Aegislash. Iron Head does huge damage to Articuno, and not only do we survive the Thunderbolt, Articuno flinches, so we Shadow Sneak to bring it down and then fall to a Drill Peck. It's mano-y-mano now, Shugros versus Zapdos. Zen Headbutt does decent damage, and then Zapdos Drill Pecks. And we survive, so one more Zen Headbutt finishes off Zapmokuno and Giovanni. Before taking on the 8th gym leader, we refuse our team. First we fuse Scizor and Lucario, and I love the way this fusion looks. Then Heracross and Gallade fuse into Heralade. Armaldo and Snorlax fuse into Snoraldo, and Tyranitar and Volcarona fuse into Volkaitar. It's finally time to take on the 8th and final gym leader, Giovanni again. We lead with our new Volkaitar, and you can guess where this is going. Quiver Dance over and over, and I think I'm gonna ban Quiver Dance in future runs for sure. It makes these battles way too easy. Just like this one, Volkaitar takes out the Cubone, Zacian, Porilurk, Ketgon, and Smeargar, defeating Giovanni and earning our 8th gym badge. Before heading into Victory Road, we fuse Scizor and Garchomp into Garzor and bring back Gyarados. Our rival challenges us, but as always I'm going to skip this battle so we don't spoil the finale. And now for the last few fusions of the run. First is Yanmega and Flygon fusing into Yangon, Armaldo and Magnezone fuse into Magneldo, and finally Volcarona and Moltres fuse into Volcatrace. So our final team we're taking with us to challenge the Elite Four is the Gyarados and Heracross fusion Gyarados, the Aegislash and Pinsir fusion, the Aegislash, the Yanmega Flygon Fusion Yangon, the Shuckle Metagross Fusion Shuggross, the Magnezone Armaldo Fusion Magneldo, and finally, Volcatrace. Our first challenge in the Elite Four is against Lorelei, the Water-type Master. We lead with Magneldo against Polyleon, and Thunderbolt does great damage, so she wastes her full restores before it falls to another. King Drio hits very hard with a Brave Bird, but falls to a quad-effective Thunderbolt. I really thought we'd be slower here, but we land the Tri-Attack and get the burn, having Swamplay's attack. Magneldo does fall to an Avalanche, but what a way to go down. Shuggross comes in and finishes it off with a Bug Bite. Gyaraku is up next, and we land a Meteor Mash and get the attack boost, but then miss our next one. And now Gyaraku sets up a D-Dance and survives another Meteor Mash, taking down Shuggross, and it gets a Moxie boost. The Aegislair comes in and we try to lower its attack with a King Shield, but we get read like a book and it gets off another D-Dance. But then it just takes itself out with Rocky Helmet. Spiracu is next, and it's just spamming counter, so we play it safe and set up 3 Swords Dances. X-Scissor easily brings it down, but then Innards Out completely destroys us, and I officially have no idea how that ability works. Now it's Milotina versus Gyarados. 2 Megahorns bring it low, but the third misses and it recovers. Thankfully, the next Megahorn crits and we defeat Lorelei. Up next is Bruno, the Rock-type Elite Four member. We lead with Yangon against Tyrant Flame and immediately U-turn into Magneldo, which can take it down with 2 Rock Slides. Probodon can, however, just melt down Magneldo, so we send in our own legend Volcatrace. A few Flamethrowers bring it low, so we set up a Quiver Dance on the heel and a few more Flamethrowers bring it down. Then Octostar falls easily to 2 Bug Buzzes, and Armatops surprisingly falls to 1. Another brings Marorior into the red, but a Stone Edge one-shots a Volcatrace. Gyarados finishes it with an Aqua Tail, and then Cray-Ray comes out, and apparently it has Storm Drain, and takes out Gyarados with a Thunderbolt. But Yangon defeats it and Bruno with 1 more Earth Power. Our next challenge is the Poison-type Elite Four member Agatha. The Aegislair brings her Clefairy down to her Sash with an Iron Head, but then misses the next, so she sets up a Toxic Spikes and switches to Umzing. Umzing tries to use Sucker Punch, so we alternate between King Shield and Swords Dance, and eventually one-shot it with Iron Head. Shandobok comes in, so we send in Shuggross. Venoshock does big damage, but so does Earthquake, so Agatha switches into Clefairy and just sets up more spikes and falls to another Earthquake. But Shandobok does finish off Shuggross. Then Yangon takes it out with a Shadow Ball, the Crowross with an Earth Power, and the Dusk Plume with 2 more. Muo easily takes down Yangon, so we send in Volcatrace, set up 1 Quiver Dance, and then spam Flamethrowers and narrowly win the Battle of Legends. And now for the final trainer between us and the champion, Lance, the Flying Master. We lead with the Aegislair, and an Iron Head can one-shot Togaflame. Shandemry comes in and we switch to Volcatrace for 1 final Quiver Dance setup, because like I said, I'm definitely banning it after this one, so once Volcarona is set up, it easily takes down every single member of Lance's team in 1 shot. But the time has finally come, the battle to decide our fate and who wears the crown of champion, against none other than our own rival Blue. We lead with Volcatrace and a few Flamethrowers cook his Ninsharp. He sends in A-Ray, so we switch to the Aegislair. Stone Edge does a lot of damage, so we King Shield for Lefty's recovery and set up a Toxic on the heel. He lands a crit Retaliate, but we land an X-Scissor, and 1 more can take out the god of Pokemon. Up next is the Sinnoh-Starter Fusion Torterneon, so we King Shield to lower its attack and switch to Volcatrace and take a Scald. Air Slash does good damage, but since it lowers its defense with close combat, the next one takes it out. I want a clean switch, so I sacrifice Volcatrace and it actually gets burned by Flame Body, but it had a Lumberry. The Aegislair King Shields twice to lower its attack 4 stages and sets up a Toxic, then a few Iron Heads brings it down. Shandevile takes out Aegislair with a Fire Blast, so we send in Yangon. After a few Shadow Balls and Wasted Potions, Blue switches to Ryuion, so we U-turn into Shuggross. Shadow Ball hits hard, but so does Meteor Mash. He then hard switches into Shandevile that gets pummeled by a Meteor Mash. So now his final Pokemon, Ryuion, takes out Shuggross. Magneldon comes in and with 1 Flash Cannon defeats Ryuion and our rival, becoming champions and completing the run. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I enjoyed making this. If so, check out my other runs and be sure to subscribe. No, really, only 4% of you are. It's free. What are you waiting for? Comment who the MVP of this run was and have a good one. See you next time.